Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this meeting of the Hunters Hill Local Planning Panel. My name is Leslie Finn. I'm a lawyer and I am the chair of today's panel. With me are two town planners, Mr. John McInerney, who is sitting directly opposite me, Mr. Eugene Sarich, who's sitting next to me, and next to Mr. McInerney is Mr. Philip Hart, who is a representative from the community. Might I ask you to check that your mobile phones are not switched on, because it is very disruptive if somebody's mobile phone starts ringing in the middle of a meeting. Thank you very much for doing that. The residents those residents who are registered to speak, the allotted time is 3 minutes, and any extension of that time is totally at my discretion. What I would say to you, though, is if you do get an extension of time, it'll only be possibly for another 2 minutes. Please do not repeat that. Whatever the speaker before you has said, we only really need to hear the objection once, unless it's specific to your particular circumstances. The representatives from the applicant will speak after the residents have spoken, and they will be asked to deal with any issues that the residents may have raised and respond to them. The first item in today's agenda is to adopt the minutes of the last panel meeting, and I move that, and I ask for seconders.
Yes.
Therefore, the minutes of the last meeting are adopted by today's panel. And I should say that in relation to item 2 today, the development at Barron's Crescent, Hunters Hill, Mr. Sarich, who's sitting next to me, has declared a conflict of interest and will leave the chamber whilst that matter's being heard. Now, the first matter on today's list is an application for the review of a determination for a swimming pool and landscaping at 9 Birrett Street, Hunters Hill. And there are 2 persons registered to speak, and both via Zoom. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh. So you are Mr. Greg Kerr, are you? Right. Well, and is Vaughan coming?
He's attending by Zoom.
He's attending by Zoom. Well, do you want to go first, or do you want?
Yeah.
Okay, why don't we do you first? We'll put Vaughan in the waiting room, I think is the expression.
Okay. Firstly, thanks for your time today, giving me the opportunity to present in relation to our application for a swimming pool at 9 Birrett Street. My wife Denise and I bought our dream home here in Hunters Hill just on 2 years ago, with the hope to put in a discreet little swimming pool in the backyard. After careful consideration of any potential impacts and with a view to hopefully avoiding any development consent difficulties, we settled on the pool location and design that I'm presently seeking consent for. I believe that all the waterfront properties on the Newcombe Point end of Birrett Street, on both our Alexandra Bay side and the Langko River side, have pools on the waterfront side of the property. Pools on several of the neighbouring properties are right on or extend over the waterway, or otherwise quite prominent when viewed from the water. Our proposed swimming pool is one of, if not the smallest in the vicinity, and has purposely been made one of the most discreet when viewed from the waterway. The pool's largely invisible due to extending down the side of the property rather than along the waterfront. It's located behind elevated sandstone retaining walls, and it's screened by existing and proposed new trees. Whilst our property already fails to satisfy the landscaped area requirements of the local environmental plan, due to the relatively small size of the site and the site constraints, the proposed pool effectively doesn't reduce the landscape area due to its small size and application of a savings provision in the local environmental plan. The pool satisfies all relevant planning objectives. There are no neighbour objections. The original DA was recommended for approval by council, finding that there would be no adverse impacts as a result of the proposed swimming pool. When the DA was considered by the local planning panel in July, whilst no adverse impacts of the swimming pool were identified, and none of the panel members expressed any issue with the merits of the proposed pool per se, the DA was refused on the basis of our clause 4.6 submission not being well founded. Having no control over the process, timing or outcome of any section 8.2 review, I unfortunately need to commence a class 1 appeal before the Land and Environment Court. With a view to avoiding unnecessary legal costs for ratepayers and myself, council requested that I request this current review, seeking to address what were understood to be the panel's concerns with our clause 4.6 submission, which I've done through my consultant town planner, Vaughan Milligan, who, as mentioned, is attending on Zoom. Council's report to this panel again recommends the DA for approval and again finds there are no adverse impacts by our proposed swimming pool. So I now seek the panel's positive reconsideration of my proposal. All we want is a small, discreet swimming pool that's been found to have no adverse impacts. There are no objections in relation to from neighbours. As the Land Environment Court proceedings are due to appear before the court again late next week, I greatly appreciate if the panel could provide their decision either today or tomorrow, so that if that decision is positive, I can have the proceedings withdrawn without further unnecessary cost to ratepayers and myself. And if the decision is negative, so that there's sufficient time for both parties to prepare for the hearing that is late next week. Happy to answer any queries the panel may have, and I'll defer to Vaughan on any technical or planning particular queries anybody has.
Thank you. Do any members of the panel have any questions?
Chair, just a question. As I read through the material presented to the panel, there was some additional landscaping, I gather, put into the new application, if I could call it the new application.
Yes.
And that was one tree somewhere, was that correct?
There is one large tree, and there's also extensive landscaping along the additional landscaping along the waterfront.
Yeah, thanks. Confirmation.
Anybody else have any questions? No? Well, thank you very much. Oh, the decision of the panel will be available tomorrow.
Okay.
Thank you. Now we go to Vaughan. Hopefully.
Everyone on the phone here was hello, Vaughan, having trouble doing through.
His camera.
Yeah.
Vaughan can see that there's no external sound at all. But he has, unless there are other queries, I don't think he has anything to add.
Well, perhaps I might ask if any members of the panel have any questions of Vaughan Milligan in relation to the matter. Do any members of the panel have any questions that they want to ask? No,
thank you.
Well, we don't have any questions for him.
Thanks, Keith.
So he's excused.
Okay. Yeah, just in case it's something. Keep working on it for others in other areas.
No, well, he's excused. We don't have any questions of him. Now, the next matter is a subdivision at Barron's Crescent, Hunters Hill. There is nobody registered to speak, and I can advise that when the panel retires to come to its decision in relation to that application, Mr. Sarich will not be present.
Sorry, I was registered to speak.
Well, I didn't. Oh, the project applicant. Ah, Madeline.
That's correct.
Then, Miss, you will. Sorry. Come up, Madeline.
Good morning, panel members. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak today. I won't take up too much of your time. I just want to say that I concur with Council's recommendation for the approval of this DA and strongly believe that the proposed development is of merit for approval today. And I'm here at the capacity to answer any questions which you may have.
Do any members of the panel? John, do you have any questions?
No, thanks.
Philip, do you
No
have any
questions.
questions?
Sure.
No. Thank you very much. The decision of the panel will be available on the website tomorrow. Now we have item 3, which is an application for a childcare centre and other works at 63 to 67 High Street, Hunters Hill. There are two residents registered to speak. One is Ms. Gorringe. Would you like to come up, please?
Madam Chair,
Just one
sorry,
moment.
I have to get our other member
Hmm?
back in. I have to-
Oh, yes, we need to recall. You just wait till we get. Depends how far it's gone. Not far, obviously. Sorry for that. Very well, Ms. Gorringe.
Yeah. Hello, I'm Liliana Gorringe. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak to the panel today. Hopefully I'll be brief as well. I live at 70 Park Road, so it's next door to the proposed development. Unfortunately, a lot of our neighbours weren't able to attend today because they weren't able to change their work commitments. But the fact that over 60 objections to this DA highlights that the proposed building has not been embraced by the locals at all, with all the many different reasons being expressed. I could list all these many reasons, but I think those really important ones are highlighted in Council's report. So now, firstly, the DA grossly contravenes the height restrictions. And so number 2, then it has unacceptable impacts on privacy for most of the local neighbouring residents. It's completely out of keeping in the local character and will set a precedent for future developments. The LAP highlights that to maintain the character and identity of our local area, buildings should be at maximum 2 stories. This proposed development is for 5 functional levels. This building will loom over this entire end of Rainier Park, and it's no doubt people would always wonder how something so huge could have been allowed to be built. It also across from a national park, so it's not sympathetic to the surrounding area. Increased traffic is of close to 50 families that would be generated for a childcare centre is in excess of the capabilities of the area. It's a small roundabout. It's got lots of movement back and forth from Montefiore Nursing Home. High Street Park roads are a known rat run. There's a bus stop on the corner and 3 bus routes, not to mention the huge number of runners, dog runners, passive walkers, children playing and general park users that access the park at our corner location every day. In my 11 years of living there, we've seen lots of low-speed accidents on that roundabout, and I hate to see the parents of close to 50 small children navigating that corner. It's also 50 children's a lot, but the noise that will generate is also not acceptable for our locals. But I leave my final and most important point till last. The DA is not permissible. The proposed development does not satisfy the provision of section 4.151A of the Environmental Planning and Assessment Act 1979, and as a result, the residential development is deemed to be prohibited use within both the current E1 local centre zone and previous B1 neighbourhood centre zones. So it's been clear that there's been an overwhelming public interest in this site, and to allow it would be contrary to what the community feels. I think it was past, locals were really enraged, and the ratepayers that we've already paid for a lot of costs for this. The community would love something to be built on this site, something that has an understanding of how special our local area is next to the national park. Perhaps one option here is to look at the zoning. I'm no expert, but it seems like this zoning is not correct. The council be aware of the 20+ year history of this site. I think there's been 7 failed DAs, lots of community anguish. In 2005, a DA for a similar really large building was filed and refused by council, and then the developer took this to the Land Environment Court and they lost. It was suggested then that this site be rezoned to residential, but for reasons I don't understand, this was never done. I appreciate the panel taking time to listen to the concerns of the local residents.
Thank you. Just a minute.
Yeah.
Do any members of the panel have any questions?
No, thanks.
No. Thank you very much. The next person registered to speak is Frank Inverso.
Good morning, all. Madam Chair. Thanks, Lily, for your great summary. As mentioned previously, I won't try and repeat points Lily has made. I will try and take a lot of the emotion out of this DA proposal. There has been a lot of community up there. We actually, from a community perspective, support the report that's been tabled to council from Michael Brewer. Effectively, the report recommends that the application is recommended for refusal. There's many behind that. The key ones being that when you assess this proposal against the provisions contained in the applicable steps, Hunts Hill LEP, the DCP, and the childcare planning guidelines, they fail. When we say they fail, I'm no town planner expert, but in my corporate world, when you look at the conclusions and recommendations made by Mr. Brewer on pages 163 to 164, there are 15 breaches of the Act. Yes, from a resident's point of view, we ask, how many more breaches do we need for this proposal to be reviewed? My world, 15 breaches against the local planning are significant. That it is well outside the requirements for the community and for the scope of this. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any members of the panel have any questions? No. Thank you very much. And now, I believe we have Andrew Martin speaking on behalf of the applicant. You've heard what the residents have had to say, Mr. Martin. Perhaps you'd like to address those.
I may, Madam Chair, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak today. It's Andrew Martin, Town Planner, the applicant, council staff, gallery, and guests. Our submission to you today is to ask for a deferral of this application. There's no statutory impediment for you to do so, and I ask you to do so because of a few reasons. I just want to ask if the panel have received some documents that were prepared by the applicant, and namely 2 letters. One was a letter prepared by Pikes Ferry.
Yes, we've received that.
And also a procedural fairness letter. It was a separate letter. There's 2 letters. One deals with permissibility and one deals with procedural fairness. So you're in receipt of those documents. Based on those documents, the applicant says and proffers to this council that the application is permissible with consent. With the greatest respect, our lawyers disagree with the lawyers from Holding Redledge. You would have noted that this came late in the piece, 3 weeks after notification ceased, and we had insufficient time to respond to that. Council staff sent us a comprehensive letter. It was dated 2nd of June with RFI, some 10, 12, 15 pages, going through the ins and outs, a very extensive letter from Mr. Brewer. In that letter, permissibility wasn't raised, hasn't been raised until such time as the Holding Redledge letter was sent by council through a GIPper. The day I heard about this letter, I applied for a GIPper, and that letter came in subsequent time at 10, 7, 6 days, whatever it is on the record. So all we're asking is that the council have at its disposal, and the panel, a legal advice either from council's lawyers that says Holding Redledge is correct, or a legal advice saying that the Pikes Fergus letter is correct. Because ultimately, as you will see in the report, there's heavy weighting, and the permissibility issue is woven like a web through the report. And it even goes to the extent of saying that 4.6 is not well founded because it's not permissible. So I think the whole report is structured and framed on a permissibility issue, as we heard from some of the neighbours. It's the most important issue, sure. We say that it wouldn't be proper for this panel to make a decision today. They should defer it because there is on foot that procedural fairness issue. Secondly, it should have before its disposal a position from the council's lawyers rather than jumping into it is not permissible. And we would say that that is not a fair, proper and just position for the panel to take, having regard to the fact that this whole issue has manifested 3 weeks after the closing of submissions on the second round of notifications, and we haven't had sufficient time to put together a response for this panel meeting. We have got a response on foot. It's very detailed. I think it's correct, but that's only my view on it. The council needs to take its own view. The other issue is about, I won't go into the particulars of the application, but ultimately there's comments in there about the upper level roof. We've had confirmation that communal space could be extinguished on the roof to reduce the volume, reduce the overruns, and to reduce the impact of the neighbours on the neighbours. So that was confirmed by way of email, but that's only a particular of the application. There's issues about the fencing and stuff like that that could be rectified. But the primary issue today is whether the panel want to decide to defer it. Actually asked that it be removed from the agenda completely. That wasn't taken up by council. So just in closing, I don't think there was any delay on my part or the applicant's part in obtaining the information under GIPA. As soon as I heard about it, I applied on the day. Basically, the timeline's there. And we always talk about procedural fairness, and it tends to be weighted on neighbours and making sure they get notified of all these changes and they get sufficient time. And if an applicant, if a neighbour is late with the submission, council always affords that neighbour the time extra outside the date. The applicant accepts that they're on foot. We're not contesting that. We're just saying that it would be improper for the panel to determine the application today. A lot of time, money, effort has gone into the application from the applicant. You will note on the file, if you see it, the letter that was sent, the RFI letter, was, like I said, 12 pages of additional information ranging from plans and management, crime prevention, heritage, traffic, acoustics. That was all presented back to council in a proper timeline. Neighbours are notified, and this procedural, this permissibility issue has come, we say, at the 11th hour. We just want a proper right of reply, or council have their own legal people look at the letter, considering what an important issue it is. Thank you.
Do any members of the panel have any questions of Mr. Martin? No. Thank you, Mr. Martin. You are excused. The decision of the panel will be available on the council's website tomorrow. Thank you for your attendance. Thank you for your attendance, everybody. I now declare the meeting closed. Thank you.